Raja Krishnamoorthi was one of the congressmen in D.C. yesterday, and he joins us now to talk about that experience. Raja, I am so glad that you are safe today.
Hey, thank you, thank you, Joan. It was a harrowing 48 hours, really, for our country.
Tell me exactly where you were, what you heard, what happened.
Well, so we were beginning the debate, and I was getting my things in order so I could go to the floor to vote on the Arizona objection. And all of a sudden, the Capitol Police, started knocking on my door pretty violently. I've never heard them do that so loudly, and they basically shouted at the top of their lungs, "Get out, get out, get out." If there's a silver lining in the pandemic, we keep a very skeletal crew in terms of a staff at any given time in the office. So it was me and a couple other folks, and we were moved to a secure location. And then my staff said, we got to move because the protesters have gotten much further into the Capitol complex than anyone anticipated. So then we moved yet again to another secure location, and this time we kind of, more or less got barricaded in for, 6, 7, 8 hours. I kind of lost track at that point.
Wow. Oh, my God. I was talking to Jan Schakowsky earlier, and she said that they went to the closet in her office where they keep things like the gas masks, and they broke them out just in case. And that some of the Capitol Police or the police that were patrolling, they were apparently handing out some protective gear.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
What went through your mind as all this was happening?
At the moment, it was kind of a rush of adrenaline, to be honest. It was just kind of fight or flight, just make sure that I get my staff and whoever else is with me to a safe place, and then try to understand what is the next step after that. But as the time progressed and I started learning more, I'd say that anger and sadness and then ultimately, obviously, once we were allowed to resume the proceedings, ultimately pride that we finished our job, I think kind of were the dominant feelings for me personally.
I was really surprised by that. After I got off the air, I was, of course, watching all of the different coverage. And when it was announced by both Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer that, as soon as they get like the broken glass swept out, we're going to start up again. And I think everybody was kind of like, whoa. We just figured everybody would go home, hunker down, hug their kids, and maybe things would get started again tomorrow. I have to tell you, I think a lot of people were really surprised by that. But I think you're right. It was surprised in a good way, this isn't going to slow us down.
No, we cannot give in to mob rule in this country. You know that, Joan. One thing that you should know was that there was a dead body that had to be moved. I shouldn't say dead body, but a woman who was basically fatally injured at the time. She had to be moved. As you said, the House and the Senate were vandalized. Senate much more so than the House, and things had to be put back in order. But I think overall there was this incredible, resolute kind of determination that we are not going to allow this assault on democracy to prevail. Mm-hmm. And I lay the blame squarely at the feet of the president. The interesting thing is that in the morning, the crowds were gathering, and we were told to come in early and not to go outside and so forth. But unfortunately, the president took to the stage with all these people and told them to march on the Capitol and, quote unquote, go wild and put extreme pressure on the lawmakers. And once that happened, they did exactly as he wished. You should also know that, there was no response that approximated what happened with the Black Lives Matter marchers when they came to town. National Guardsmen were not called, and it turns out that it looks like the president may have been the person that stalled the response there. I think Vice President Pence had to take control, essentially, and call in the National Guards people. We were stunned that these protesters, there are thousands and thousands swarming the Capitol, were allowed to come as closely as they did to the Capitol grounds without any response whatsoever. No water cannon, no tear gas. I'm not calling for lethal force. I just don't believe that's how you should treat protesters, as long as they're peaceful. But these folks were not, they're not singing Kumbaya on the front lawn. They were trying to get into the Capitol, and yet our Capitol Police didn't respond properly, and they didn't get the backup and reinforcements they needed.
There were reports that when Muriel Bowser, the mayor of D.C., first put in a request for National Guard, that Donald Trump either outright said no or said something along the lines of, we'll take it under consideration. And then the reports were that when the defense secretary believed that the National Guard needed to be called out, that the defense secretary reached out to Pence, the two Democratic leaders in the House, the two Republican leaders in the House, and the Republican and Democratic leader in the Senate. But Donald Trump was not on the list. And it has been reported just exactly what you said, that Mike Pence was the one who gave the okay for the National Guard to be brought to Washington, D.C.
I got to tell you, that was just... We were scratching our heads and wondering what the heck is going on. Where are the guards? It's the height of irresponsibility not to have called them in sooner. If that was intentional, that would be even more damning. I don't subscribe to the Mike Pence fan club in any way, and I disagree with him profoundly. And I think he's really been he's taken a lot of craven political moves over the last 4 years. But yesterday, I kind of wish that he would have probably asserted himself a little sooner as being the de facto president. But when he did, I'm glad that he did, because it helped with the process, the certification process, immensely behind the scenes. And I think that ultimately that type of, it was late leadership, but it was needed yesterday to bring it to a conclusion.
Now, I know that today both Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi have been saying that we need to, Mike Pence needs to lead the cabinet in invoking the 25th Amendment, and if he doesn't intend to do that, we will impeach. I don't know if you have more current information, but a reporter from the scene posted this a few hours ago saying that Senator Schumer and Speaker Pelosi tried to call Vice President Pence this morning to urge him to oust the president. Schumer said they were kept on hold for 25 minutes, and then staff told them that Pence would not come to the phone. Has there been any movement in the effort to get in touch with Mike Pence to discuss this, as far as you know?
I don't. I think he may have gone into witness protection at this point. And I think that the thing about and I actually called for the invocation of the 25th Amendment today as well. As you and your knowledgeable listeners know, it does require the vice president to initiate. The primary path for 25th Amendment invocation is you need to get a majority of the cabinet to agree, and then if the president protests and says, "I am capable of executing the duties of the office," then it comes to Congress for a vote, and we have to vote to sustain Pence's decision on a 2/3 basis in each chamber. I suspect that there are more than a few cabinet secretaries, high-level officials in the Trump administration who are trying to sound out the possibility of this, but it really does require coordination with their Republican counterparts in Congress, because obviously I think Democrats would probably vote as a bloc at this point, and I think there'd be a bunch of Republicans who join in, but I don't know what there needs to be probably a vote count, a whip count on that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, if the 25th Amendment...
Because I think, sorry, just to finish it, I think that in all these moves, not to belabor the point, but in all these moves, you want them to be, you want to do the right thing, and you want it to be successful. We don't want him to walk out of there also saying, "Hey, I'm vindicated," which is what he loves to do when he, basically escapes the death penalty and gets something less than, the ultimate punishment.
Maggie Haberman from the New York Times is reporting that John Kelly is saying that he believes the 25th Amendment should be invoked. But like you say, that's not something that's easy to do. So Nancy Pelosi said today, if the 25th Amendment isn't going to be invoked, that she is ready to impeach Donald Trump again. Is that something that you guys in Congress, could you pull together articles of impeachment and vote on them quickly?
I don't know. I'm a veteran of the impeachment wars at this point, having gone through the whole process once before. Usually these things take a little bit of time, regardless of how fast you do it. I think that what Pelosi and the leadership, and she, Speaker Pelosi is a master strategist, and there's a reason she's our speaker, is it has to weigh, if we went this path, could we actually do an impeachment and a trial in 2 weeks? Because once he is out of office, it has no meaning. If he's in office and he's impeached and convicted, then theoretically, it has a meaning, and he might be barred from future office and so forth. But it's a tough, decision making process for her as well.
And just like with Jan, before I let you go, I want you to weigh in on this situation that is developing around Illinois' freshman Congresswoman Mary Miller, who spoke to the Trump crowd before they rioted yesterday, invoking Hitler in a positive way. And I know that Jan has called for her resignation. Where do you stand on that?
I'm deeply disturbed by her comments, to say the least. The fact that she would invoke Hitler says two things to me. One, that she thinks her audience would look upon that reference favorably, which I think they do. I've long maintained that this Trump crowd traffics in anti-Semitism and white supremacy, as freely as you and I talk about liberty, freedom, and equality. The second thing that came to mind is just herself. Why would she go there? is it that she herself talks to people who think that, that time period or Hitler himself were somehow people that deserve praise. I think she said something like, the one thing he got right or something he got right, when all of us know that he was evil and everything he did was absolutely morally reprehensible and wrong. It's just a horrible, horrible situation.
It really is. You've got a lot on your plate, young man, and I have a feeling we'll be talking again very soon. Stay safe, okay? And this time I'm not just talking about COVID.
I know. There's that. Oh, yeah, we forgot about that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God.
My well, thank you, Joan.
Real quick,
yes, go ahead.
Do you have any feelings, strong feelings one way or the other about Merrick Garland, now that he's been officially announced and introduced?
I thought that was, I have to say, I smiled, and I thought that that was a very good choice. I actually think that someone of his independence and stature and character, and the fact that he was the line prosecutor for several domestic terrorism cases, means that he's the ideal choice for the time that we're in right now. And I can't wait to work with him as Attorney General.
Excellent. Excellent. So glad to hear that. Thank you so much, Raja. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. I'm sure we'll do it again real soon.
Take care.
Okay.